People love seeing their artists take risk. The thing is, most fans' perceptions towards the act of risk-taking are more often associated with loftier and more eye-popping aesthetics. Risk, for many, equals daring. It means out of the top in terms of themes, or intricate in terms of showing musical prowess, rather than just the general, abstract idea of doing something that's never been done before. People will put Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy or Yeezus as having been a riskier project to make in a vacuum over, say, Jesus is King. The truth is that the credence of risk is more dependent on context and situation, as well as the right execution, over grandiosity or complexity. More than 3 years after the release of Punisher, the unapologetic, 26-year-old vampire known as Phoebe Bridgers is still receiving huge, career-changing dubs from her highly acclaimed 2020 album, taking a litany of spots in many publications' year-end best album lists, as well as a well-deserved Grammy nod. An album which from the surface level may seem harmless, unassuming, and maybe even singular in tone, but when given enough attention will take you to a vast dystopian frontier that you might just find a deep connection with. How are the risks taken with this 11-track symphony of melancholy, dissociation, and longing for rebirth so noteworthy, despite the album's somber feel of subtlety and simplicity? Let's find out in this episode of Dygest's Revisiting. Both in music and in memes, Phoebe Bridgers has always been about the relative low-key, and yet, the overall culmination of her musical inspirations, whether it be with her collaborations with Conor Oberst, Julian Baker, or Lucy Dacus, her highly acclaimed 2017 debut album, or Punisher itself, have always been quite an eclectic ensemble that not many can easily put together. The language of her lyrics have the nonchalance of a 2000s pop-punk track by an Avril Lavigne or a Paramore, and yet also sport the tender nuance of a Taylor Swift. Her sonical sensibilities and choice of instruments have the earnest spirits of folk, Indian rock, but harmonies like that of an orchestra. Her treasure trove of influences range from Harry Potter soundtracks to Neil Young. And she dresses like a member of the Black Parade for extra measure. Diversity. Speaking of inspirations, let's not also forget one of the more refreshing elements about Phoebe's music, which would be the open admission of her religious obsession with the late singer-songwriter, Elliott Smith. A central topic of the project, especially in songs such as the title track Punisher and Garden Song. How is this refreshing? Let me put it like this. Where else have you heard of a songwriter dedicating a vast space of a very personal album to an artist she clearly loves very much? Clearly. Yes, that is next level simping for you, but in a way she makes it more beautiful rather than kind of creepy. For me personally, that is a way ballsier risk made compared to many other mainstream experimental albums of today. Most artists would die trying to write music that their viewers will instantly relate to. Most artists would die trying to distinguish themselves as far apart as they can from their own heroes. Not that that's wrong, but it seems that the more you try to seek these distinguishing characteristics, the more that the authenticity of your musical work gets muddied and diluted with desperation. This Nosferatu of a woman decided to bet her entire album all on her musical instinct, possibly taking the risk of seeming derivative, or worse, having an album that sounds mundane or alienating to its listeners. Quite an admirable thing to do as a musician. Many artists have, and will try to emanate the genuineness of Phoebe's music, but really, your true authenticity will speak louder than your music, and Punisher's roars like a T-Rex in Jurassic Park. This is a feat that not many will come to recognize as a genuine risk, but hey, you can't tell me it hasn't worked so far. How much you'll attribute this wave of support to Bridges is a puzzle, but you can sure give her all the credit for choosing to be a fan of herself first, before anyone else. Besides the simping, you also get a good mix of mainstay personal subjects such as the hollowing pain caused by brittle, broken relationships with parents and lovers, the challenges of mental health, and the complexities of drug use and religion. We get a glance of these serious topics through a lens that's in tune to the nihilism, but also has a cleansing, resurrecting type feel to it, especially in tracks such as ICU, Halloween, Moonsong, Kyoto, and Chinese Satellite. Listen to these songs and you'll hear why Kid Cudi decided to bring her in for a track in Man of the Moon 3. Perhaps the most impressive track in this album can be found at its tail end, with the 5-minute and 44-second swan song known as I Know the End. It is in this song where you see Phoebe do her best imitation of a slow jam beat switch not too far from the likes of Frank Ocean's Nights or Travis Scott's Sicko Mode. I know, quite a comparison. The transition of the melancholic riffs in the Somewhere in Germany part to the prophetic violin and drumstick tick in the driving out part are akin to that of a boxer suddenly finding the courage to bounce back from a knockdown and end a fight with a nuclear, death-defying flurry of punches. Fitting. I didn't love the wretched scream at the end, although I understand the expression it's trying to bring. I will say that the more I listen to it, the more I kind of just get used to its guttural sound. It gets bearable eventually. The overall theme of Punisher has the aesthetics of a landscape shot from The Walking Dead, and yet, in this drab world of darkness, each track has its own glimmer of light that you can sort of make out behind all the rubble. The plucking guitar notes and the soft, ASMR-type singing in Garden Song are incredibly sweet and easy to listen to. And yet, the lyrics about murdering a neo-Nazi and turning him into fertilizer are very equally charming. The sunny disposition of the twangy Graceland 2 is just a perfect palate cleanser from all the tense moments of the album. Kyoto's pretty much the most ideal indie pop song you could ever hear on the radio. I personally love the Copycat Killer version better, but I can understand you playing this track on repeat for an entire day. This track gets the solid jam certification for me. Remember what I said about people's notions on risk? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I do believe it pays great dividends in enjoyment and empowerment whenever you choose appreciating subtle risks as much as you listen in awe of the bombastic ones. Aside from maybe Lorde, no songwriter presents such risk-taking so unapologetically like Phoebe Bridgers. No songwriter, or even any rapper for this regard, demonstrates such unbreakable, I do what I want energy like Phoebe Bridgers. From what I've heard so far, I can speculate that you might never see, either in her fledgling but already fantastic discography or her future works, any attempt to slam the most unique bits of her music right on your face. Her nature as an artist is just to put elements in the places right where they're supposed to be put. Such decisions have made Punisher that much more personal and a much more impressive journey overall when you decide to explore its gritty, apocalyptic world over and over. Perhaps the thing about Phoebe, from the ditzy skeleton suits to her over-bleached locks, down to the unending flow of Kyoto versions she does every month or so, is that she doesn't look at her own risks as risks at all. Just merely decisions she makes in order to please her representational reasoning. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it's better than depending on the voices of others for your music to be conceived. Maybe that is something that many other artists could learn from in making their own personal pieces of art. Maybe you'll even get a Grammy nod for it. That's it for the revisiting for the month of June, everyone. I realize we missed about 3 months of uploading, but that is not without good reason. We have a life and jobs. We're gonna try and make things more consistent these next months, and hopefully we can get to a beat of about 3 quality concise essays a month. Let us know if you love or hate this video in the comments down below, and please decimate the like button if you did enjoy. What are your thoughts on Punisher and Phoebe Bridgers? Do you simper so much that you'll dedicate an entire album to her as well? Give us a hint on who and what you want to see in our videos next, and we'll put it over a poll by our IG and Twitter pages. We love you, promise us you'll stay hydrated, thank you, and cheers. Driving out into the sun, let the ultraviolet come in.